So, welcome to the celebration of the Imbolc, blessings of the goddess, beginning of nature, awakening of nature, the time between winter solstice and also uh, spring uh, equinox. And it's a perfect time to talk about being an earth worker. If you haven't noticed around us, energies are chaotic, right? There's a lot of division, especially at the end of last year. Almost everyone I knew was having some sort of an upheaval in their lives. And if you are probably listening to this, you're probably well aware that the earth is awakening or the energies are accelerating, which allow us to access energies on a faster and faster scale, on a quicker scale. And so, what that means is we can access our intuitive gifts, access our magic, access our natural abilities to be more present. But at the same time, we can also access the things that are awakening within us that are not light, the dark. And in this, being in the spiritual community for a very, very, very long time, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of distancing from the deepest part of our dark history because it's just not comfortable. And so, what being an earth worker does to really affect the changing planet, to affect the paradigm, we're all connected and in the space of oneness, in that energetic vibration, is to show up and do the deep work. And so, what multidimensional healing has gradually evolved into being is a place where we can all gather and do that kind of work in a space of nurturing where we're supported by our personal guides, where we're supported by the divine who show up in this sacred space, hold our hands, and really dive deep into those deep fears, which are unresolved trauma, like raw, vulnerable trauma. And we work through them month to month, week to week, in a series of group sessions. Monday session, we tackle our energy system. To have a strong energy system is really the key to navigating any kind of waves in life, any kind of storms. Thursdays is all about getting into the root of trauma, and Saturdays are a beautiful session where we meet Saturday mornings and immerse ourselves in the high frequencies of raising our conscious awareness. So, what does all this mean? Well, it really just means coming into a place where we are more centered, more present with life, and more able to be in that intimate place of our own spirituality. Our spirituality is awakening with us and for us. And so, as we learn to harness that, as we learn to become more immersed in that, our ability to connect with ourselves on a deeper level, with God, we recognize our divinity, that we are divine, not in a selfish way, not in an egoic way, but in a way that is very unified with the divinity around us, with everything that is divine around us. And so that, in a nutshell, is what Earthworker is. So the history of how it evolved is really fascinating. I've been doing this work for 15 years now. I started studying vortex healing in 2009. And vortex healing is an awakening lineage where you can literally take classes that help gradually increase your ability, your awakening awareness. You can actually take a class to awaken. And what awakening really means is that you realize this you that is sitting here or watching this meeting, participating in it, is not really the you that you think you are. You are so much more. And you awake out of that illusion into the reality that you are just an I without anything after that. It's a very simplified version. And so the awakening process, a lot of people are on that path and that journey in various ways. And not everybody is called to do it, but those who are, eventually you're going to hit the hard spots. Eventually you're going to hit the stuck places. Eventually you're going to hit the trauma and the darkness of our intergenerational patterns. This is a dimensionality that is what creates us as human beings, as spirits having this human experience. And it's our intergenerational patterns conditioned with the consciousness of our current life and our karmic life, our past life histories. So when I started studying vortex healing, I started taking clients, and I started realizing that I could hold this group space in a way that was really profound. And it eventually, and I follow Divine Mother energy. I have been called and have been pulled to Divine Mother energy from the very beginning. Mother Mira, in various incarnations, not just one. Mother Mira, Ama Karuna Mai, Ama Sri Anandamayi Deve, which is, she's known as the hugging saint. I consider her my guru. And so Divine Mother energy is really what I access. I was given a gift of a tree that came in first to my spine and then evolved and is now in my heart. And this tree is like the world tree, the tree of life. I can access it. Tree is a common symbol throughout so many mysticisms, so many religious practices, so many philosophies, as a symbol of as above, so below, meaning as within, so without, so that we can access who we are, or access the higher aspects of who we are, and experience it in this reality. And so this tree in my spine gradually grew, gradually showed me very slowly that it was a part of holding this group space. And I started traveling around the country. It's how I met some of you who are online here, offering groups that were really profound, and they were transformational from the get-go. And I was never in charge. I just leaned back and surrendered, and where the energy took us was always something pretty deep. And it was never really an airy fairy. It was never really about, oh, let's just sit in high vibrational energy, see what happens. It always went there. And there's a process to working dimensionally that vortex healing has taught me that helps the process of moving and shifting dimensionally. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But as I traveled around the country, the sessions just kept getting deeper and more profound, and showing that transformation was indeed the focus of where my practice was taking me. I tended to work with a lot of people who had trauma, a lot of people who had very deep issues. And I do as well. My own personal situation contributes to my professional practice. And so over the last couple of years, especially during lockdown, I realized that all these years of study and offering transformational practices, both in person, in workshops, and in groups, really was helping um, uh, awaken from trauma, deal with trauma on a larger scale. And so when the lockdown happened, I realized people were getting shut down so that they could have the time and have the quiet, because for most people, my sessions are always 2 hours. Why? Because it takes time to get into the aspects. You really have to feel nurtured. You really have to feel safe to get into the aspects that we tend to shrink away from, the vulnerable places, the raw places, the hurt places, the places that resist, right? And so that's what I was doing all these years. It just gradually evolved. And I realized that, wow, all these years, Source, God, the Enlightened One, Goddess, whatever you want to refer to, higher power, mystery, I just call it Source for just very generic terms. So the way Source has guided me all these years was as a direct help, benefit to where the earth was heading. And I've always called it earthwork to a certain extent. The groups that I do and offer always work on the collective. So when we gather here today, I have your name written down to enter into this group field, so that we can not only work on you, but we're working on your ancestral patterns, we're working on your karmic history patterns, we're working on the collective of how they're all interwoven together. And so naturally doing that, I realized that during the lockdown that's what the world needed. And so I started offering these sessions for free, and attracted people who just wanted free stuff. And then so I circled back around, started charging again, probably a year and a half ago. And then they gradually, over lockdown, started to show a pattern of this is what people needed just by active listening. And so that's why I'm offering now 3 group healings, and I have been for a while now. They've gradually evolved into the segmented areas 3 times a week. And yes, it's a lot of work, but if you're in a transformational path, if you're here to really help the world evolve, it starts within you. You have to realize you are the world is in you, and that is a process that takes work. If you have a personal practice, I'm sure you devote time to it. And so it's continuous work to unravel these patterns and also to bring in the awakening and have and entrain to it. And so that's what we do week to week, month to month. I have a core group of people that keep showing up. They're my heroes, they're my sheroes that I'm really blessed to not only support this work, but to be doing the work themselves. And I know if you're on this call, you must be on a transformational path as well. And so the way it's evolved, the tools that have come forward has just breathtaking, miraculous even. We have a bulk of work, an archive of work that I'm going to find some way to make it available because it literally, I don't from month to month even know sometimes what our focus is ahead of time. That's the kind of trust and surrender I have because I'm like, I don't know what we're going to work on. We're going to work on some issue that is relevant to the people showing up. And so I have a backlog, a back catalog of all these sessions that gradually work on topics like letting go of control, mistrust, hard-heartedness, and all these things that people who show up month to month benefit by unraveling all these vulnerable areas slowly, organically, safely, feeling loved, feeling nurtured in a sacred space where all this energetic support is there. And so as it gradually evolved, it turned into earthwork. And so I finally just, and sometimes, I'm the densest, source needs to kick me right in the butt. And I just said, oh yeah, this is earthwork. Let's call it what it is. And I created an earthworker membership that is debuting quietly this month. And it is a way for us all to gather, to benefit from the archive, to have exclusive content, a place to talk, a place to share our burdens, to share our struggles, and to celebrate each other, to celebrate the joys and the victories as we make realizations. The people who have been with us month to month, and some of you are on the call, I'm just in awe of how you've progressed, and some of you I've known for a while now. And just to see how you've changed from 6 months ago, from a year ago, is just truly, truly inspiring and really, really just why I do this work and show up. And I'm also my own best example of how this work. I'm in each session. Yes, I'm a facilitator, but I'm in each session with all of you all in my body. I have a lot of struggle with some body issues, some dis-ease, and they're pretty severe. One of them is Lyme's, and it got pretty bad over the past couple of years. But over the past year, it's gradually getting better simply because I'm working on my body and I'm working on the issues underneath it, along with everybody who's in all the sessions. And there was a time where, especially during lockdown, it was very hard for me to function. And now, because of these sessions, um, I am not 100% better. I know I have a ways to go, but I'm a walking testimonial of how this works. So the Earthworker membership is, I believe, if you got an email, there's a link. You can check it out on my website, and it really is just a place where you can sample the energy for the one price, and it's just one price for all year long. have exclusive content. I'm just really excited to have a place where we can explore and dabble in the things that people need and go, what do you need? I'm brainstorming new things all the time. And it's just a place for us to land, share our, again, struggles, share our rewards, share our shifts and movements, and as we do each week. But but oftentimes we don't have time because sometimes we just jump right in and do and start and do the work. So, in a nutshell, that's what the Earthworker membership is. So, what does it take to be an Earthworker? That is an interesting question. An Earthworker, really, you need to resonate with your divinity. So you have to recognize that you are something greater than this body that's sitting here listening, and have some sort of understanding of that, because that's the end goal, is to come back into wholeness with your divinity. You're on some sort of path of self-discovery with that purpose in mind, and you know that there are old wounds in your way. The root of that is trauma, but maybe there are blind spots, maybe there are shadow work that you need to do, and it's a familiar process to work through your shadows. But perhaps there's a place that you've gotten stuck. Perhaps there is something where it's just out of sight. You're not seeing, or um, you're confused. You just don't know what to do, and that's when this work can come really in handy, because that's where this work really shines. You're willing to do the work, because I tell people what this is. People are meeting 2 to 4 to 6 hours a week. Again, my heroes. Why? Because they realize this is what it takes to become a better version of themselves, to access not only the higher levels of your own consciousness, but to get rid of the veils of illusion that prevents you from understanding that that's who you are. And so it takes work. And so if you're willing to put in the work, this is the place for you. If you're not, uh, again, the Earthworker membership is set up where you can come in, and I have people that come in and out all the time, or they just take one of the sessions per week. The Thursday group is all about deep issue work. I have people that just say, oh, that's all I need. Or people said, okay, well, I really just want to connect with my divinity, and that's Saturdays. And so it's set up to be what you need, that you can mix and match. So again, the energy of an Earthworker is you're ready to break free of the illusion. And this illusion is a recognition that, again, you are something so much more, and you're running into it all the time, either in your relationships or just look at the world. What is one of the biggest problems we have out there? Disinformation, misinformation. And we're microcosms. As we deal with that self illusion within ourselves, we're actually helping to dissolve the patterns within the collective. It might be on a minuscule scale, but everything matters. Intention matters. Our work matters. Your work matters. And you also have your own toolbox of self care, because when we work on some of these issues, it's going to arise. Things are going to arise. And so if you have your own toolbox of self-care, you know what to do when anger comes up. And yes, we talk about it, and sometimes we give each other tips. And that's what the private Earthworker site is, so that we can share there what helps and what works for us, and have access to each other's knowledge and inspiration when that happens. But you should already have your own toolbox, that when things fall apart, which they normally do when you're in a place of transformation, it's a metamorphosis. You have your own toolbox of self-care to work through it. You're open to working with your guides. You're intuitive. You recognize that not only do you have your own guides and you ask for help, that there are there's a wealth of information, simply, again, by asking, and you're ready to surrender into that sacred wisdom. One of the biggest blocks for people, and we've actually worked on it in our over the course of the last year, is that we think we know better. I've done it. You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand. I've done it. Because when we think we know better, Source is just laughing at us. When you surrender into your divinity, when you recognize that you are indeed Source, you're surrendering into that sacred wisdom. And it's a process. You might understand this intellectually, but the next part of that equation is, how do you live it? How do you live it? And that's where embodiment comes in. That's where embodiment comes in. Well, I want to leave time for us to really dive into the energy of it, especially on such a sacred day as Imbolc. And so I'm going to open it up for questions. I've talked a lot about the energies of an Earthworker, about what the Earthworker membership is, a little bit about my history and how it's evolved. And it's really just a magical evolution of which I'm just blown away. I'm just blown away. I'm very humbled at how it's evolved. So, is there any questions? I'm going to turn on your mics. You're welcome to unmute yourself. Is there any questions that you have that have come up from anything that I've said? Anything that's relevant? Anything that piques your curiosity? Anything that's confusing? Because I've just said a lot, really, in the last 20 minutes. And I know there's a few people on here who've experienced this work. You're welcome to share what your experience of is it, because because sometimes when I talk about it, I'd much rather have someone else's experience of it, which makes much more sense. Okay. Well, that's fine with me because I would like to jump into the Imbolc healing as well, because my goodness gracious, the energies this year have shown to be very, very potent, very powerful, very set up to be um, uh, I'm trying to think of the right word, a catalyst for change on such a powerful and again potent stage. So I'm going to again turn off your mics, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to guide you through a healing that is focused on the Imbolc, and I oftentimes don't know where it takes us, but there is a series of phases that we go through, and sometimes the phases kind of are shorter or longer, and sometimes we don't even do the phases because, again, I'm not in charge. But in general, there's a series of phases when we work dimensionally that really work one after the other to better prepare your system for working on deeper levels and to access those deeper levels. And we generally start off with grounding. We then come into a regulation phase. We then work on nurturing, helping your system feel safe, feel secure, because some of these resistant places, especially if you've done a lot of your own work, what's left is those deep resistance places, those sticky places, those places just out of your sight are the places that are still very deeply resistant or buried. And so the nurturing, the relaxing, the centering really helps your system open up to receive. Then we bring in energizing. Energizing gives your body fuel. It takes energy to move energy, so much so that we have a single session on Mondays. It's all about energizing your body and clearing the places in your body, like the kidneys, like the lungs, like what we did last month was pancreas. What we're doing this month, liver. We're working on the liver. In fact, the liver has so many different functions. I don't know how we're going to get through it in a single month. But the liver is associated with anger. So I'm actually really looking forward to it in a macabre way because my goodness gracious, who doesn't need to tackle anger in this day and age? And so energizing brings up the energy of the body to give your system strength, the fuel it needs to move the deeper levels. And we finally get into a release section, we integrate, and we bring in the energies of repatterning. What is it that your body needs to counter whatever it is that we cleared, that we resolved, that we transmuted, alchemized? And so this pattern generally takes about an hour, sometimes longer, depending on which day we're working on. Today, I don't know. I know I said 8 o'clock for some and 8:30 for others. Let's just see where this goes and see how long it takes us. If you do have to leave early, I totally understand that, but I'm going to try and watch the time and see where this takes us. So I've already created a group field. Thank you for identifying yourself. Dropping down into your grounding cords. Each of you has a grounding cord at the base of your spine. And this grounding cord is calibrated to the moment you came into the planet. And so planetary energies have shifted and changed. So what I'm going to do is update your grounding cord. Grounding cord helps you feel connected to the earth. And the grounding cord it's weakened over the time on the planet because we're living on concrete boxes, driving on concrete roads. We're living detached from the earth so much more now in modern society. So grounding cords have gotten weakened. And so we're just updating your grounding cord to the frequencies relevant to the planet now, which have shifted and changed, become more high. So creating structures to update to a high frequency grounding cord it's like upgrading your system. You know, like you have apps 1.0, 2.0, or upgrading your grounding cord, hardware and software. There you go. Perfect. For some of you, it's going to be much easier to ground now. I had to clear a little bit out of the way before I did it for some of you. So now, feeling into your grounding cord. How does it feel now? Feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more easy to just be more present in your body. So let's practice using this grounding cord now. And so at where you're sitting, if you're sitting in a chair or on a couch, or if you're lying down, feel into your root chakra. And we're going to extend this grounding cord all the way to the center of the earth. But first, let's just go through the chair you're sitting on. And gently down through the basement or sub-basement or bottom layers of your house and into the topsoil and down through the various layers of the earth, whatever your geology is. Maybe there's slate, rock, granite, or there's a water table. Going further and further through the strata of the earth layers. Eventually you're going to hit some molten lava until we get to the center of earth where there's a heart. To me, it feels like a crystalline structure, but it could be anything that is presenting itself to you when we're in this sacred space. The sacred space is tailored to what's most comfortable to you. And so sensing into this crystal ball, feel yourself connect to it like an umbilical cord connects to mother, or more organically, like a plug plugs into a socket. There you go. And now gently breathe in this beautiful earth energy and bring it up through into your body and exhaling down. And here on this beautiful Imbolc day, as we're connected to earth, the earth is so grateful that we recognize her, we're honoring her in this special day. And so she's saying, ask right now, what is it that you need? Maybe just generally ask for an Imbolc blessing. Ask for a blessing, and it should be personal. Because here we're recognizing that you personally deserve to feel loved, to feel honored, deserve to recognize that not only you are loved, you are loved. We've all forgotten, we've all become so disconnected and separated. So asking Earth for a blessing here, an Imbolc blessing, And it feels like it's going right to your sacral chakra, your second chakra. And any part of yourself that doesn't feel worthy of being more deeply connected, feeling more deeply grounded. Beautiful. And as earth, breathe up into you, pulling this energy up through all your chakras. And out your crown. And exhaling down, breathing to the center of the earth. And as earth, breathing up into you. For those of you who've done this exercise, it's just really deepening and strengthening your own grounding cord and power line. And it's going straight through earth and connecting, going straight through your crown and connecting in this torus, this toroidal field, this infinity that is three-dimensional. It's allowing you to flow effortlessly. And we're spending time on this Imbolc evening, this beautiful blessing of a day where Earth is awakening, to help the part of you that is Earth awaken. And the root chakra is traditionally quite blocked, because that's where our survival fear and a lot of our ancient histories and our karmic lives and our interdimensional or intergenerational lives of our ancestors holds a lot of old pain and suffering. And so the disconnect there holds a lot of fear. And so when we ground through it, sometimes we're moving around big boulders just to get through. So sometimes we don't like to stay grounded, especially when we're triggered by the things that come into our lives, the crisis, the struggles. And so here it's just gradually helping you feel. That's what the Imbolc blessing seems to be, more comfortable, more comfortably grounded in your body, in your lower chakras, in your legs. You may feel a tingling, you may feel heat, and don't worry if you don't feel anything at all. And so as we entered the sacred space, your personal guide met you. You have a lot of guides, but I like to assign just one. Chief guide, probably one that you're very familiar with. And this guide that you're very familiar with, it's going to make sure you get what you need, where you need, how you need it, when you need it, because we're going to be accessing, and we are accessing, energies and vibrations of a host of divine helpers. Divine Mother Collective, Merlin, the Master Healer Collective, a lot of celestials, a lot of earth magic, and our cosmic brothers and sisters, our star lineages, of which we come from. Of course, we're made up of stardust and have ancient, ancient lives in the stars. And so they're here to make sure you get what you need in this blessed day between the solstice and the equinox, where we're eager to begin this awakening process again. Earth is seasonal. Your body, when it's in balance, is seasonal. Your body, when it's connected to the earth vibrations, is seasonal as well. So the first place we're taking us is this healing pool. Healing pool is this magical plasma that can present itself as any sacred, fluid place where you feel like it's your sanctuary. For a lot of people, that's the bathtub with candles, soft music playing. Could be a hot tub, could be a pool, could be out in nature, swimming in a lake, standing by a stream, or drifting out in the ocean. Whatever this liquid sanctuary is, feel yourself immersed in it. And allow the liquid energies to flow in, around, and through you. This is pure plasma, pure consciousness, pure magic. Magic of all creation, the magic that's manifesting into creation. And its sole purpose is regulation. What is it you need to prepare yourself, not only for the session, to prepare yourself for your life? And it's going again, it's pointing right at your sacral chakra, your belly. Oh, that's not surprising. Bridget, the actual name of Imbolc is in the belly. Because that's when the ewes got pregnant this time of year, so that they could have their lambs in the spring, and that those lambs have all summer long to grow up in good weather. And so we're pregnant with potential right now. So the regulation is happening in your belly, in your guts. What is it that's out of regulation? What is it that's out of sorts? What is it that is maybe feeling balanced? And the only direction here is to let go, open up, and receive. That's the only direction. That's it. And in this letting go, there's a relaxation that can occur. And in this relaxation, the energies are accessing you vibrationally in a much more efficient, productive way. So we have, to me, light energies that are coming in to assist you, higher frequencies, lighter in nature, to come in and help alchemize, to awaken, to lighten up the heavier energies. Heavier energies are notoriously like the fear, pain, the suffering, the anger, frustration, the grief. And in our belly area, for females, our reproductive organs, males, the genitals, but we also have our guts. We have the lower intestine, the digestive region. And typically when we're working here in the belly, it's what is it that you're not able to digest right now? What is it? And it's typically an emotion, a raw emotion. It's unprocessed, unhealed, at a root level. You can, I'm sure, bring in lots of stories about what it is in your guts that are churning right now. When we work dimensionally, I don't tend to focus on a story, because here we're in the story of all these groups, but there's also many stories. Like if we focus on one emotional issue on a dimensional scale, if we're targeting your ancestors and we're targeting your past life history, there could be 5 stories, 50, 500, 5,000, 50,000. You have to deal, especially with something broad like fear or grief. And right now in your guts, in your genitals area, in your reproductive organs, the uterus, the womb for many you women. And, womb work is also for men, because you came from a womb. And your birth process had quite a significance on who you are today. That's what it feels like. It's working on some old womb energy that may be unresolved. And here in the healing pool, it's just helping to regulate. And this womb energy feels very old, almost stagnant, like tepid water or swamp water. And it feels like the fear of living in a world that is in that is cruel. Fear of living in a world that is karmic, basically. Karmic meaning cause and effect. If you kill or hurt someone, that energy comes back around. And so we have a very dark world where a lot of cruelty has happened. And the process of life is balancing your perspective of that, right? You can't focus too much on the heaviness of the world, or you'd walk around like Pigpen or Eeyore from, the children's programs. So we balance it with uplifting ourselves. And life is about balance, but we can't ignore the troubling areas, because when we do, and eventually, and that's what our ancestors did. And so this feels like the womb energy of an ignored, unhealed, unprocessed fear of being born, of living in a troubling time, in a troubling world. It's very stagnant, and it feels like it's also impacting your hips. And so the fact that we're in the healing pool and dealing with it, which is the very beginning of the session, means for a lot of you, this is right on the surface. You've already done a lot of work here. And it's just ready to become alchemized. And when we're in these swirling waters of energy, regulation is helping to dissipate it, to transmute it. Transmutation means energy coming back to its source, coming back to its origin. When something is coming into form, like a tree, you have a tree, it's a beautiful tree, and someone cuts it down and they take that tree and they make a table or a chair out of it. That's manifesting the tree into another form. Well, energy does that too. It comes in and creates the form that is you. It can come in as an emotion and create the form of fear. And so when we transmute it, also another word for that is remanifesting. I don't tend to use that a lot. I do with my groups, because we all know what remanifesting is, coming back into a different form. Transmutation has some of the same connotations. And so in the healing pool, it feels like the stagnated womb wounds, womb energy, is just lightening up. There we go. And it's dissolving. So to me, it means that there was already energies ready to be cleared within you from whatever work you've been doing, from whatever is happening in your life. Beautiful. So now we're going to come into the next phase of preparation. And I just call this relaxation and centering. And what we're really going to do is bring in the vibration of love, pure love, unconditional love, and the energy of peace, which is equanimity. We're tending to live in a big liminal space right now. This liminal space is betwixt and between. We recognize that the life we have here on Earth is unsustainable, both from a climate perspective and also from an emotional perspective, from a social perspective, from a cultural perspective. Things are in the balance. And so we're not quite ready to, and we're not there, we're not in a kinder, gentler world, but we're so sick of the old one, right? And so this liminal space is a good sign. it means that things are changing, coming into our awareness, and that's why things are so chaotic. So this liminal space is a good thing. It's like a preparation. You just landed on the train, you're waiting for the train to come to go to your next destination. And the next destination is what we make of it, right? Our intentions create. And right now we have a whole bunch of people who are creating a lot of division and chaos in the midst of transition and transformation. Some have direction, some don't. And there's a whole bunch of people. I belong to a lot of groups doing earth work, a lot of groups working on the earth, working on each other, working on patterns within the collective, within themselves. So there's a lot of people doing this kind of work, joining together. So here in relaxation, centering love and peace, coming in again to focus right there in the guts, right there in the womb. And if you're male, of course, you have access to a womb. And in past lives, we're both, we've all been masculine and feminine, and we carry masculine and feminine energies within us. And so when I talk about the womb, it could be symbolic. And so we're bringing in love. Love in its divine form is both a nurturer, but it's also an illuminator. It's saying, what in you shrinks back from love? What in you doesn't feel loved? What in you resists love? And here in the sacral center, in the womb area, there's that fear. Fear of living in a flawed world, fear of living in a cruel world, shrinking back from it because, it's like a little child. And there's all this psychological work about the wounded child. When I started doing this work, I said, I don't feel worthy because I don't have that kind of training. And they're saying it's not you doing it. You're not doing any of it. So beautiful people do all this wonderful work psychologically. They're just doing amazing work. This isn't that. This is an assistance to that. This is the roots of that, energetic roots. And so there's this wound in place. It feels very childlike. It fears being out in a scary place. This wounded child is frightened and fearful. And so love is surrounding that frightened place, bringing in nurturing energy like 1,000 arms wrapping around you, wrapping around it. And peace coming in to offer compassion. Compassion says, I have radical acceptance. I don't want you gone. I don't want to push you away. I don't want to fix you. There's nothing broken. I accept you fully, who you are, what you are, as this energy of feeling afraid. It's like it feels like this womb, like a great example is we've all been cocooning in our homes because of COVID-19, because of the virus, right? And sometimes we feel afraid of sticking our head out because what's out there. No, I don't want to get sick. And do I wear a mask? Do I don't wear a mask? Do I get vaccinated? Don't I get vaccinated? It just feels so disturbing out there, right? So we want to shrink back into our hole, or like a turtle, pull back into our shell. And this is that kind of energy that is literally in your womb of childlike woundedness that says, if I pop my head out, what's going to be out there in this scary world? And that energy is still stuck in your womb from your ancestors. There's ancestral signature pattern, and from your incarnational lives. Past lives that you bring in as what we call an incarnational package. That over time creates the personality you think you are and influences you, your behaviors, your thoughts. People always go back to the parents, but what about your ancestral patterns? Epigenetics proves that the history of your ancestors affects you on a molecular cellular level. And What about the shamanic work with past life aggression? So all that is being addressed here by your guides, by a wonderful consortium of vibrational support in this sacred space, this interface between worlds. I'm just a play-by-play announcer. I just happen to notice what's going on. And I'm in there with you. So I can sense through my own body kind of where it's impacting me, and I'm then relating it to you. And so love coming in to nurture the wounded area in the womb where this child like you, which is a representation again of a signature pattern that was felt by your ancestors, that was felt by you in past lives, that was never really resolved. This womb wound just feels frightened coming back out into the world, kind of like what's happening right now. What is life going to look like next year? I have tickets to go to a concert in April. Should I go? Can I go? Is it going to be safe? Are people going to be masked up? There's what about traveling? What about seeing our loved ones again? And so there is this collective fear that's going on right now that is mirrored in your ancestral fear, reflected in your karmic history, that has a signature that it's happening right now. And then those are three different places that we can call this conditioned consciousness. Consciousness is matter. Everything is made up of consciousness. And this conditioned consciousness has a signature that says, I am frightened to poke my head out, which is in your womb. And this signature pattern has lots of stories. We talked about it earlier. But love is surrounding it right now. Love is what illuminated the different places that are resistant and is slowly nurturing, especially any raw, vulnerable places, bringing in peace to surround it with compassion. There you go. Now it's starting to feel safe. Because ultimately we hit these patterns of resistance. And it's all about these patterns feeling safe enough. Why don't they feel safe? There's resistance. The energy of fear is all about resistance. And this pattern is a fear of just the potential of what's out there. And on this Imbolc, this day of welcoming new beginnings, if there's a fear of planting your seeds and flowers, because, well, what is this world going to be like? Is there going to be fertile soil? Or is climate change going to change the way the rain patterns are? Going to change the way there's too much sun, too little sun? Are things going to grow? And that's a metaphor for our own lives. When we come out in the spring, are we able to gather like we used to? And so this pattern has direct connotation for this life on both personal and collectively, but also has a history in your ancestral life and in your karmic history, your past life, that have similar connotations. If you can think of, well, perhaps here's one example, perhaps your ancestors lived in the plague and they had the same response. When is it going to be safe again? And look at how many of people I knew died. Holding on to that fear of what if? It's not safe, it's not safe, it's not safe. Stay in, stay in, stay in. That's just one example. That's one history that's trapped in cells, trapped in a multidimensional memory of your energetic anatomy. It's quite fascinating when you think about it. Beautiful. Just a couple more minutes of love and nurturing. Just a couple more minutes. So this fear of the future and coming out probably also has roots in troubled births. So if you can think of your ancestors or you in a past life where you had difficult birth, where either you or your ancestors struggled or had trauma, that can be associated with this, directly, indirectly. So peace and love coming in and just folding that energy up, that raw energy, that vulnerable energy, that painful energy, that suffering energy in the arms of love. Beautiful. And now coming into energizing, we're going to bring in fuel to your womb. Because this kind of memory of trauma in your history, it's in your cells, it's in your organs, but it's also in your dimensional framework and supports. Again, I'm not going to go into detail, but we have a complex dimensional energy anatomy that holds this kind of vibrational patterns as, again, conditioned consciousness. And when we can clear on that level, it really truly creates transformation. Because we're waking these patterns up. We're saying, hey, womb, hey, guts, hey, hips, you're not that anymore. So we're bringing in some what I call bio-remanifesting, or just Devi alchemy, into the womb to clear and energize it, clear and energize it, clear and energize it. Oof. And again, for the men, this is the symbolic. Perhaps you had a difficult birth, perhaps there's a situation with your mother, your maternal side, or you in a past life. It's also going to your hips, birth canal, clearing and energizing, clearing and energizing, clearing and energizing. It's going into the brain consciousness, and any memory of this womb fear of coming out, fear of the future. Because life is inherently a struggle, or life is inherently cool. As we clear and energize, clear and energize, clear and energize wherever it's most needed. We're giving these spots the energy it needs for them to self-clean, self-cleanse. Christ alchemy coming in. Christ alchemy has an element of grace that is like liquid gold. But this liquid gold is hot, has a cleansing quality. Like burning metal comes in and cleanses as it rolls through. Leaving behind pure grace. As it energizes and gives these places that are impacted and affected by this womb fear, and it's not just the womb itself. It's going to your hips, it's going to your birth canal, it's going to your prefrontal cortex, it's going to your central nervous system, your sacral chakra, your root chakra, any energy bodies correlating, any pathways, wherever most needed to help clear and energize what this particular pattern weakened. Beautiful. We only did a couple minutes of energizing because they want us to go right to the pattern. I'm going to be breathing for just a couple minutes, and we're just going to go into that womb fear, whatever that is, reflecting within you this fear of the future, this fear of coming out, this fear of, well, if I come out into the world, it's a scary, dark place. Why would I come out? I'm going to stay in here. And I'm clearing that signature pattern. Okay, let that ripple on through. Now going into what's called the collective conscious conditioning. This is more like the blueprints, the framework and supports, the different areas that I won't go into detail, but you have a complexity of ways that this pattern is held within you. Again, I'll be breathing for a little bit. There's a little bit of anger mixed up in there. Our issues are interwoven. If you can think of their networks, if you can think of like issues like a rope with twine woven around it. It's never really just one thing. There we go. Let that ripple on through. Just going to integrate for a minute or two. I really want us to get to the blessing. We have special celestial angels here with us that are not only helping with this session, but personally helping with a lot of the clearing. So the new beginnings are stirring within you. We're more pure, more open, more free basis. Integrating in all space and time, all realities, all dimensions, all realms, interdimensionally, all fields, catching up and physicalizing. Integrating is like putting the puzzles back together. When you think you're dimensional, we've ever seen the Matrix, again, a very simple explanation, but we're all interconnected through the vital web of life, the divine web running through it, and in this field of energy. And if we change something that's interconnected with everyone and everything, then we have to catch everything up and saying, hey, psst, we changed that. It's like putting the puzzle pieces back together is the best way I can describe it. So integration does that. And you all know when you're not integrated, don't you? You feel really out of sorts. That's why we regulate so much in the beginning, because so much is happening now with the earth changing, with whatever work you're doing personally and collectively. Our systems are out of regulation constantly. So all these phases start to make sense when you work with them on a continual basis. Catching up your physical bodies, of course, and your organs and your chakras, catching up your energy bodies, all of consciousness, your brain and brain consciousness, your central nervous system, your life field, which is this um, field of every single life experience. Catching up your luminous egg, which is this dimensional scaffolding, all your pathways, and specifically the organs, the womb and the hips and the lower intestines, your root chakra, your sacral chakra, mental body, emotional body. Integration to me feels like settling down. And now coming into pleasant phases. I'm going to reorient to the place where this issue is completely resolved. We've transformed it. So when you recognize you're dimensional, every single aspect of you exists, and we can bring it in as an overlay. So we're going to bring in the you that has resolved this issue, this womb wound of fear that doesn't want to participate in life because it's afraid. It's afraid of the future. We've transformed every single issue, gained all the wisdom. And it just feels like joy. It just starts giggling. And of course, it's coming out on a day like Imbolc, this joy-filled life. If you have screen on, Imbolc blessing. Imbolc blessing means is saying, may the stirring of life underground stir new dreams into life within you. May the flames of inspiration and new growth be ignited within your being, because it's about new growth, new beginnings. And here, what's popping up for you is pure joy. Pure joy. So this other issue that was preventing pure joy from really being embodied and lived on a continuous basis was the part of you that was just afraid. And it stretched back into your ancestral and incarnational lives. So you might not even know on the surface that it was there, but deep down this was brewing, this place that said, you know what, psst, it's scary out there, don't go out. What about this? What about that? And it may present itself like anxiety or monkey mind or all sorts of ways, or even problems in your bladder or problems in your womb or problems in your hips or lower intestines or digestive region. Excuse me. So this pure joy coming in, we're going to create new upper dimensional blueprints. We're going to create a scaffolding for this joy to be so much more present in your life. And now that we cleared the areas that held back from joy, like weights pulling you down, maybe you didn't even know were there. This joy now has so much more space and room to blossom and grow. The seeds now are in more fertile ground. And the water now is coming in as pure. And the fertilizer feeding it very nutritious. Pure joy coming in. This joy is like a universal joy that knows itself as higher consciousness. It's awake and aware. It's interconnection, not only with the world itself, all of nature, but all of humanity, all the planet, all the universe, actually. That's the higher consciousness we're waking up to, the recognition, the realization we are so much more. And so this spark of joy is an aspect of that. It's an aspect of your divinity that wants to be embodied and lived. And as much as you access joy and live it and probably bring it into your life, the embodiment is how can we live it every day. And the only way we can do it is if we work on not only ourselves, but that peace that's in the collective. So I'm experiencing a lot of joy right now, right? So let's bring this into what I call this truth tower, the multi-dimensional portal, where it's the you that has all these different lives. Your feet are in your primordial self, and your crown in your meta reality, and you're standing in this tube of light, this divine portal. We're just going to bring in this effervescent joy, like bubbles of light or sparks of a flame. If you've ever seen a sparkler or someone welding, these beautiful, bright, burning sparks going into every single one of your cells, like seeds of joy. And you've got trillions of them, so there's a lot of sparks going into you right now, and reprogramming your cells for joy, bubbling joy, effervescent joy. anticipatory joy that says life is joy. Life is about laughter. Life is about happiness. Life is about creation of more joy. That is one with the joy out there. The kind of joy you see when the sunrise sparkles in front of you, or see a beautiful painting, or you hear this piece of music that just ignites something deep within you, or a baby's laughter, or a puppy or kitten playing. Pure joy. That's the kind of energy this is. Bubbling up within and without. Allow it to percolate. Again, like sparks. Or maybe like a mist. Maybe a mist is much more palatable. Dissolving into the skin, into all your cells, and pooling at your feet, and creating this dissolution, soaking into your shins and knees, and into your thighs, and into your root chakra, where we first started. This bubbling joy, effervescent joy, alive with life, happy with life, laughing with life. And into your sacral chakra, your third, your heart, up to your throat, into your brow chakra, and out to your crown, where it joins with this interface, this toroidal field, which joins with a morphic field that literally is a sacred geometric energetic interface with the planet and, well, with the universe. But right now we're just going to focus on you and the planet in this beautiful field of resonance that is holding bubbling joy with you at the center, raining down on your head. Bubbling joy. I'm going to send it out to all of creation on this day of Imbolc, this day between Solstice and Equinox, on this day of pure potential. Sending it out first and foremost to your homes. Let your homes bubble up with joy, this effervescent energy, and all your loved ones in it, the pets, the plants, the ground beneath it, and out to all your friends, co-workers, and clients if you have them, out to your workplaces, and dropping down into the soil beneath your feet, and way up into the sky and the atmosphere, and radiating out in concentric circles of this mandorla that's three-dimensional. It's bubbling out into all of creation, dropping these sparks of seeds into every heart. Spark joy, not just humanity, but all of life. The animals, the insects, the birds, trees, deep into the oceans, up into the mountains, the marine life, the soil, the microbes, flowing into the wind and the trees, starting from your heart, resonating out in harmonic resonance, this bubbling joy, this effervescent joy, celebrating the blessing, the goddess arising within you. From the womb that was hurting, that couldn't express herself because there was old wounds there that said, oh, gosh, it's too scary to come out. And resolving them has allowed this joy to come out in just boundless ways, reminding you of your potential, reminding you of possibilities, creativity that can be now birthed anew in your belly, pregnant with potential, pregnant with possibilities. And as we come to an ending of this beautiful, beautiful gathering on this special, special day, singing a Sanskrit mantra, which is a prayer of peace. It's a prayer to ask Source, ask God, please lead us from darkness to light, from untruth to truth, from death to immortality, and let there be peace, peace, peace. Let this reverberate not only in your belly, but outwards to all humanity, to all creation, dropping seeds of hope, seeds of joy, especially in anyone that may be in need, that may be feeling that shrinking back from life, that resistance from any kind of fear, reminding them that this joy is who they are at their core. Om Asatoma Sakkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amtram Gamaya. Om Shanti 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 Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Peace, peace, peace. May peace continue to bubble up as this effervescent joy and to create more peace. Namaste. Sat Nam. Amen. It is done. It is complete. Bring you up and out of this sacred space, asking you to take a couple of deep breaths. Come back to here and now. May this peace again continue to rise within you, turning it into gratitude. Gratitude for you that just decided to show up here today. Thank you. Gratitude for your personal guides that were helping you receive and get what you need. Gratitude for the multitudes, including the celestials that were showing up for you. Mother Earth gifted us with the blessing before we even started. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be a conduit for you here tonight. You may want to stay in this space for another 5-10 minutes, for as long as needed. Please don't come out of this grace flowing until you think that you're ready. Take your time. Take your time. Again, it is done. It is complete. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you.